I went from my highest weight of 88 kilos down to 72 kilos in just over 18 months, and these are the rules that I still live by to this day to prevent the old rebound, the dreaded rebound. I have since put on what I believe to be a couple of kilos worth of muscle, but funnily enough, I'm still 72 kilos because I've only further leaned out in recent years. And so yeah, in today's video, I want to share with you the 10 things, the 10 hard and fast rules that I'm actually still really stubborn about to this day, even though I'm not trying to lose any more weight, to prevent that dreaded scale creeping back up. Let's get into it. Rule number one, I never let one bad day turn into two anymore. I draw a line in the sand. Whether we're talking about like an all-out bingey cheat day where I finish on 5,000 calories and half of my nutrition choices that day are abhorrent processed junk foods, or we're talking about just like a little slip. Maybe it was a donut or a cookie, not the worst thing in the world, but it wasn't really accounted for. I was impulsive in the moment and it spilled me over slightly into a calorie surplus. Whatever the nature of the mistake is, I draw a line in the sand and I say no, back onto my normal plan. Now, when a habit, when a junky processed food that you used to find historically very addictive, once it finds its way back into your regular, let's call it habit-based foundation, it's really hard to get out of. So instead, I chalk it up as that was fun, that was a little treat, that was an indulgence, back on track now. We're not letting that become a regular pattern of behavior again because we know that's where the spiral starts. One bad day turn into two. And another thing I'd say as an extension to this isn't a rule, but I suppose it is a bonus one. I'm never ever nowadays, after 10 years living this way, I'm never under some false naive notion that I'm gonna be 100% whole foods perfect all of the time, Mr. Disciplined all of the time. I really don't feel that about myself. I wanna be a lot more realistic about these things. And so I don't set myself up with some notion that I'm going to be perfect and anything that's not perfect, the house of cards needs to come down, drama, drama, drama. No, I made my mistake, chalk it off, back on plan. Rule number two, I had to have a small calorie deficit. This was a deal breaker for me, much smaller than the conventional 500 calorie deficit, certainly any more than that. And I tried all that in the past. There was always massive backlash. There was always binging. If I combined any sort of emotional triggers with like genuine underlying physical hunger from a really steep deficit every day, it was just a nightmare for me. I cannot do, you might see me as Mr. Disciplined, I might inadvertently pitch myself as Mr. Disciplined with food, and I like to think I am in many, many ways with my food choices. One thing I can't deal with every day though is lots of hunger. I was not the effortlessly lean kid that had these crazy shredded abs at 12 years old. I was always more of a skinny fat kid that liked the sweet treats and liked a bit of extra food, never got overweight but liked a bit of extra food. Like, I can't deal with that much hunger, I really can't. So for me, a calorie deficit of like maybe maximum 400 calories, but starting at 300 calories, days where I'm a little bit hungrier, giving myself permission to actually eat a little bit nearer maintenance. Those were actually things that slowed down my weight loss on the scale, but I didn't care because I'd been through the ringer so many times with the crash diets and the rebounds that I was so strict in the end. That 18 months where I lost weight, I was running at, there were days where I was like only in a 150 calorie deficit and I still applauded myself for it because I was like, yes, we really prevented like a crazy binge today just by giving ourselves permission to have a bit more food. Rule number three, if you're winging it, if you're taking liberties with your meal plan, your meal structure, you're probably actually overeating a lot more than you think. This one is depressing because you think, oh, I've lost 10 pounds. Don't I deserve to just have a little bit of bandwidth? Self-trust here. I'm only eating healthy foods. I'm not sneaking chocolate into my diet. It's fine, isn't it? You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. Like 10 years I've been doing this and I still make mistakes with this to this day. In September last year, I started to notice the scale over about 2 weeks, the scale start to creep just at the tune of 2 or 3 pounds. But that for me is enough for the alarm bells to start ringing, and it was happening progressively, not just one-off weighing where it could be, sodium one day, etc., etc. And so I started to look at my diet and I was thinking, hold on, I'm not doing anything different here. I'm not even having that much more variety. I'm not mixing up the meals that much. What's gone on here? Well, actually, as it turns out, I was doing these big giant loaded salads, which I love, but every week I was adding like another little thing, playing around with the dressings, adding another little thing to the salad. It was only vegetables, but I might have been adding 50 calories there. I had gone with my evening chili dish from half a can of chopped tomatoes to a full can, or it's only an extra 60 calories, but things start to stack up. I was doing loads of mangoes, I remember, in September last year, and they're quite a calorically dense fruit. Like all things that seem quite innocent, they're all healthy, they're all things I eat regularly anyway, but I was kind of upping the dosage maybe and the frequency. Well, these might be to the tune of 200, 250 extra calories per day. Absolutely, that's enough to stop your progress, slow down your progress, maybe even make the scale creep back up the other direction. All seemingly like passable green light because they're healthy, whole foods compliant. In my experience, even after all my years doing this, if you're winging it, there's a very good chance you're overeating. Rule number 4, if I binge, I should say when I binge, because yeah, it happens, I forced myself to realize it wasn't the food, it's probably something else. I used to think of myself as a food addict and the poison was the food. And to a degree that is correct, and I still believe a food addict and food addiction exist, to be very clear on this. The layer of understanding I now add is, well, in the last 12 months, every time I've binged, and it does happen as I say, it's always when I've been having a shitty day. And it's got nothing to do with what I had for breakfast that day. It's nothing to do with food. It's always been when there's been a strong emotional trigger for one reason or another. I was hit with a tax bill I didn't expect. Business isn't doing too well at the moment. Whatever it is. Not stuff not career related, personal stuff. You know, things that hurt my feelings. Yes, I've got them even though I'm British, stiff upper lip. Yes, like something you might consider as really trivial to me. It was a really big deal, and so I use food to stuff, suppress, soothe, etc., etc. When I do binge, it does happen. By the way, it's a myth that slim people don't binge and they don't make mistakes even after the weight loss. It's just the frequency and the severity of the binge tends to go down. But for me, I still binge, but I now force myself to think, like, what was the cause of this and how do we actually go and fix that so we're not binging or tempted to binge as much in the future, rather than just saying, oh, it's the food is the poison, abstinence is the key. No, it's my certain emotional state, and I failed to deal with that emotional state with healthy coping mechanisms. So if I binge, I actually introspect, I try and fix the initial emotional trigger. Rule number 5, I'm more than willing to use the dark arts if I need to cheat without compromising results instead of engaging in a really, really unhealthy habit. So for example, on periods of time where I feel like a massive bingy urge coming on, Christmas was a really good example because I wake up on the 26th and I still feel like I've got chocolate on my palate. And I remember on the 26th, I had 2 Coke Zeros to suppress the sweet cravings, and it absolutely worked a treat. It worked really, really well because I just felt like I haven't got the I'm white knuckling this. I don't have the discipline here like I usually do to just ride out the craving. I got to do something here. Coke Zero it is, without compromising results on the scale. Now, Whole Foods Puritans will go, that is egregious, that's absolutely treason, better to overeat on healthy stuff. I don't know. I'm a binge eater at heart. I don't know if that is necessarily true. So I make these small concessions. The sweet chili sauce that I throw on 2 or 3 dishes every week, it's like a 0-calorie sauce. And yeah, it's got thickeners and additives and all sorts of things in it that, I mean, I can't call it healthy. That's why you'd never hear me talk about this, because I don't really want to give it the green light from a nutrition perspective, but I'll absolutely use it if it stops me eating cheese or something that would add loads and loads of calories, all sorts. My only rule is that I eat, when I say cheese, vegan cheese, my only rule is that I eat vegan. That's it. Everything else is a guideline. I do not claim to be a 100% Whole Foods perfectionist. I am more than willing to play these little dark arts, flexible games, if it keeps me on track in the broader grand scheme of things. You might not agree, but this is what I've landed on, to just be a little bit more realistic with myself and really use a little cheat code from time to time to stop something that could totally derail. Rule number 6 to lose weight and actually keep it off: stop changing your plan. Like, I'm smiling because I think back to myself, what a plonker I was, but we've all done this, right? I wasn't that much of a plonker, I just didn't know better. I would literally, from one day to the next, go from intermittent fasting to paleo to flexible dieting to if it fits your macros to then binging and rebounding, having a massive cheat day, to then the following day trying to correct it with some absurdly aggressive calorie deficit. Like, I remember a period of time where I was doing 1,600 calories in 2015. For some of you, that might be an appropriate fat loss target. For me, that was like a 1,000 calorie deficit at the time. It was more. It was absolutely ludicrous. And then, of course, I cheated and binged the following day or within a couple of days, and then went right back up the scale. If you keep changing your plan, how on earth do you know what actually works? Even if you start getting results on the scale, how do you know what to repeat? You don't. And if you're not getting results on the scale, how do you know what works, what doesn't, what needs culling, what needs adjusting? A big adjustment or a small adjustment? You've got no idea. It is literally just hit and hope. Stability and continuity in your plan is required to actually get accurate feedback from the scale to inform you, do I need strategy change? Am I good to go right now? The naivety with, again, no moral high ground because I've just told you how I used to do this, but the naivety how fickle we can be sometimes. I look on people's Instagram, literally every month they're doing a new thing under some naive illusion that it's the new silver bullet, and they're on Instagram saying, oh, I've discovered this new thing, guys, it's the best thing ever, I'm getting great results. Hold on, you said that about the last 6 things, mate, so we don't even trust you now. But that is what it's like to be desperate for results. You do this incessant ship jumping, and it has to stop. Trust the process, trust your plan, and then actually change it based on accurate information. You can't get accurate information from that scale if you're doing something different every day, every week even. Number 7, this is less of a rule, more of a guideline really, but I don't mess with alcohol all that much. I had it yesterday, and this is what prompted me to throw it in this list today. I had it yesterday, and I was thinking, have I even had alcohol this year? We're in mid-April. I had a G&T yesterday. Have I even had alcohol? And then I thought, yes, there was one other time for the baptism I did. So twice this year on 2 occasions in 4 months I've had alcohol. So I can't say that I'm strictly teetotal. That's why it's not a rule. But not messing with alcohol, I absolutely can say has made a massive, massive impact on all of this stuff. Not just because of the calories in the alcohol, not to mention it's really unhealthy anyway, but strictly from a weight loss perspective, it's not just the additional calories in the alcohol, because actually you can factor that into your diet quite effectively and still stay in a calorie deficit. Quite effectively, actually. It's not hard unless you're doing the British binge drinking thing. You can have 1 or 2 drinks. But where it was bad for me in the past, I just lost all focus and drive. You know, I get really happy. I get really loose, really happy when I've had a drink. I'm not one of those angry drunks or anything like that. I get really happy and I just lose that driven edge, that focus, and I just say, yeah, screw it. We'll go and have some. It makes me really hungry. It just drops, maybe not hungry, but it just drops the inhibitions, and I just say, sod it, screw it. Yeah, go on, let's have some food on that. Let's have some little olives, some snacks, some crunchy, salty, sweet snacks on the side of it, and then I want the sweet things after. I want to go home and eat extra food after because I'm in the pleasure-seeking mode. I just want to make myself feel good now I've had a bit of alcohol. So yeah, just makes me lose focus easily, actually. So barely touching alcohol, certainly in the last 5 years, but even really since university over the last 10 years, I think it has been. I don't think about it much because I don't have it much, but when I really think about what has changed my life here, not having booze is definitely part of it. Rule number 8, honestly, speaking totally from the heart, unfiltered, not to spare anyone's feelings. Variety, it's honestly bullshit. It's so overrated, criminally. And we can say, yes, more variety tends to be better from a nutrient diversity perspective, but at what cost? If more variety hurts your consistency, it's not an advantage anymore, is it? It's not an advantage. I notice that I get in my leanest condition, like the abs start to get really super chiseled when I'm like a machine, a robot, eating the same foods, the same meals in the same quantities daily. And I've just, what did I say earlier? That word continuity. It's just every day, bang, bang, bang. And this way, I'm just like so streamlined and focused. When I go into the grocery store, I'm just like bang, bang, like I'm in and out in 5 minutes. It's bang in the basket, this, because my diet is so repeatable. It's so controlled. There is no negotiation. It's actually when I feel my best because I don't need to make any decisions. There's no stress and guesswork around food. There's no what am I going to eat for dinner tonight. It's just the same as I have the last 14 nights. Bang, done. That's it. When I literally offer myself no room for wiggle room. And you know what's ironic? This happens in my busiest periods. I don't know if that's ironic, but it happens in my busiest period. Like it's actually all hell breaking loose in my life. So I need my nutrition to be really simple. And that's when I get really super lean, really chiseled because I'm just like a robot. And then that way I know for sure I'm definitely eating whatever it is, 2,300 calories a day, every single day. There's no, did I definitely meet my calorie deficit today because my dinner was a little bit different and I threw this extra thing in this time, but I did substitute it with this, so I took this away. Did I really? Like I said earlier about winging it, you just don't know. It's uncertain. I know for sure I'm going to get in amazing shape when I'm just bang, I'm eating the same foods every day. It's really controlled. There's no negotiation. Rule number 9, this may be more of a concept, but if it's not sustainable, it's not maintainable. And so everything I run through this filter, this is my MO. If it's not sustainable, it's not maintainable. So whenever I'm considering maybe a food change, an exercise plan, strategy, adjustment, something like this, I will ask myself the question of, am I actually gladly willing to do this? Even if it doesn't produce the result I want it to, would I still kind of enjoy doing this? Can I imagine myself doing said thing in another 2, 5, 10 years potentially? If so, brilliant, let's add it to the plan. Because generally speaking, what you do for weight loss is going to be a large part of what you do to maintain that weight. Yes, there are some subtle differences. You might be able to eat a few extra calories. You can maybe play fast and loose. You've got to be careful with some of your rules once you've lost the weight because you do have that that wiggle room, but at the same time, it's going to be a lot of overlapping principles there. So why would I engage in things just to get the weight off that once I got the weight off, because I didn't actually like doing those things, I've got all these resentment towards them. Once I've actually got to my goal, you really think I'm going to be glad to stick to that process for the rest of my life? Course not. Course not. And I learned this the hard way. Why don't I do intermittent fasting regularly? Why don't I do paleo anymore? Flexible dieting like I spoke about, like I did heavily in 14, 15. Why don't I do those things anymore? Because for one reason or another, rightly or wrongly, maybe it's my bad execution or they were just a bad idea, bit of both at times. For one reason or another though, those plans were not sustainable to me. So nowadays, everything comes through this filter. Even if I know, like peptides right now, all the rage, right? Even if I know there's something that could get me even better results, I always dissuade myself from doing it by asking the question, you're really happy to do that for a long, long time, Ryan? And then I go, oh, hell no. So why am I even considering it? Why is it even on the table? Why am I even flirting with that idea? I have to like the process. What do I love about plant-based eating? Everything. Those other things. I had to have so much motivation, had to have so much focus because I didn't like them, I resented them, they didn't work for me in some way, and so it was really hard to see myself doing them long term. And finally, rule number 10, this is a hard one for many, rightly or wrongly, this came very naturally to me. There is a degree to which this process is slightly self-centered as a pursuit, and it will involve you saying no to things that other people expect you to do because they've done those things with you in the past. New people in your life, different gravy, different thing, because you can set those expectations earlier on. People that have already known you to engage in cake and pizza and wine night with them, date night with them, that is really tricky. You're going to feel guilty. You shouldn't be made to feel guilty by them. You're going to. Maybe even if they are understanding and forgiving, you will still feel guilty because we are social creatures. So when you're out with your family, as so often happens to me, and they say, oh, let's all have some cake, and I say no, and sometimes I say yes. But if I'm choosing to, no, not today, thank you very much, not today. And they look, my mum, as she sometimes looks a bit disappointed at me. She respects my free will, but we're still creatures of conformity. There is still some kind of social expectation on us to partake with the group. There is a degree to, and you know, no, I'm going to go to the gym tonight. Sorry, I'm going to the gym tonight, darling. Sorry. Get over it. Sorry, I'm going to the gym. No, I'm not watching Netflix again for the millionth time. I'm going out for a nice evening walk. Please join me. Please join me. Maybe we'll watch half an episode when we get back, or the rest when we get back. Let's go for a walk. Let's go for a 10-minute walk now. There is a degree to which you have to be willing to stand up. Like, it sounds dramatic, but some people are so flaky with this. Bluntly, you might be really soft and flaky with enforcing your own personal boundaries and your own goals. Don't be. This is a self-centered game to a degree. That doesn't mean selfish. That doesn't mean you're taking away from other people, even if it sometimes feels like you are. Give yourself permission to put yourself first. I promise you, when you start getting results, the more you start saying no to people and enforcing those boundaries, the less like guilt and social tension it'll actually bring up in you. You'll just get used to it. You'll actually feel slightly more, not to make this too woo-woo and grandiose, but you will feel more empowered and more strong as a person to just be able to say, no, this is me, this is what I'm doing now, and yes, I know it's a bit different from how I used to be before, but I'm serious about this. Okie doke, that's it then. 10 rules I follow to lose weight and never go back. Yes, there's periods where I do a little 2 or 3 pounds go on. I'm not perfect all the time. Japanese pancakes, they were fun. In Japan last year, they were fun, but we're not getting to 5 pounds, we're not getting to a 10-pound gain, we're not having to do any major resets. This is basically the body weight that I've maintained now for the best part of a decade, and the rules that have helped me doing just that. If you're nodding along to all of these rules thinking, well, I know this, Ryan, but I do struggle to stick to these things consistently, yeah, this is where most people realize they don't actually have a knowledge problem because there's so much info on the internet. Good thing, advantage nowadays, but they have a problem actually applying things consistently, and that's where I can help as a coach, to actually help with the implementation, to hold your feet to the fire, to give you the personalized guidance, support, accountability, etc., to make sure, no, you actually stay the course this time, and troubleshoot things appropriately when they come up, not just give up because of discouragement or stress or self-doubt, but actually work through those quitting points like the plateaus, the binges, the cravings, to have someone on your team to help pull you back on track and maintain that focus. If you want help with all of this, I'll put the link to go and learn more about my coaching down below. Let me know in the comments down below which of these rules you need to work on, which resonated with you most of all. See you in the next video.